everyone, mabuhay. I am Charlene Asnipas from BSE2J, the first reporter of this topic. The lesson for today is all about the using plants as natural dyes. But before that, we focus on the Philippine traditional strategies. This time, we come now to the table of contents. Bye-bye! So in this lesson, we have four table of content. The first is the using plants as natural dyes, which is our title or topic for today. Natural dyes and magic paint is just a similar topic and similar process of dyeings. That's why pinag-isa na lang namin yon. So, the third is the Abra, which is the natural dye capital of the Philippines. And the last is the eco printing. So, this time, the objectives has four. The first is to produce natural paint or dyes using locally available plants. The second is that to promote the standardization of natural dyes in the Philippines. The third is to identify the different plants used in dyeing in the Aklan. And the last is to distinguish the environmental benefits of plant dyeing. In the next slide, this is the introduction for our topic. Creating and using plant-based dyes is the wonderful way to gain an understanding of the biology and chemistry at work in the plants around us. In the Philippines, the earliest artifacts found so far that show the use of dyeing are the pieces of textile found in Banton Island in Romblon. The tradition of textile production using plant dyes is alive and well in the Philippines, particularly in the weaving communities of Abra, Ifugao, Aklan, Mindoro, Palawan, Zamboanga, and South Cotabato, and among others. But as we said earlier, Aklan is the capital natural dyings in the Philippines. In the next introduction, sources of natural dyes are everywhere. Dyes can be extracted from roots, foliage, nuts, berries, and flowers. So, dito sa natural dyings natin, sari-sari ang ginagamit na mga bagay na pwedeng pangkulay sa damit, sa cotton o kung saang-saang bagay para mas lalong maging traditional yung paggawa ng natural dyings. So, until the mid-19th century, plants were the primary source of dyeing. The process of natural dyeing became obsolete with the discovery that dye pigments could be produced through modern chemistry. Dyes produced by chemical means are more easily transferred to fiber. It is not required as much time to preparation and stand up better to repeated washing and exposure to sunlight. So in this lesson, we are focused in dye making. For water extraction, plants were truly washed and useful parts were washed and cut the soak in either hot or cold water for extraction with oxidization stir. In Ifugao, the ikat dyeing technique is used the traditional textile of the Ifugao people living in the upland interiors of the Cordillera region of the northern Luzon Island in the Philippines. It involves tying portion of the cotton threads before dyeing, resulting in-dyed portions and creating patterns during weaving. So, dito sa lesson natin ito, iisipin natin na sobrang difficult ng process ng paggawa ng natural dyeing kasi it is a tradition. Ito yung pinaka-una-unang paggawa at hindi pa involved dito yung machines kasi wala pa to sa present. Kasi 'di ba, meron tayong mga makabagong paraan at makasimpleng paraan ng pagdaday, which is meron ng mga bagong dating na mga chemicals na ginagamit natin sa dyeing. So, nung elementary or high school tayo, we should practice on how we dye in the simple. Meron tayong ginagamit nun isang parang food color siya. Para siyang food color pero hindi siya kinakain. Ito yung chemical powder siya na ginagamit sa pagdaday. Yung process nun is bago mo siya ilagay sa tubig, pakuluan mo na yung color na yon, and dapat basain mo na yung t-shirt na puti. And meron pa nga doon na ginagamitan pa ng mga rubber bands para magkaroon ng lines, yung mga part ng rubber band na wala para magkaroon ng patterns. So, yun. And now, tapos na tayo doon sa introduction. We come now to the dye bath. Dye bath is the solution of pigments and water used to transfer the dye to the fibers. In this dye bath, some of the active pigments are flavonoids called quercetin and chalcones. In this function of flavonoids, it is not completely understood, but it is known that they absorb UVB light, which plays a role in the defense and reproduction functions of a plant. So, bakit kaya kailangan yung UVB light para doon sa dye bath natin? It because kasi galing sa mga plants, flowers at kung ano-ano pang mga natural dyes. We need to kailangan nating ibabad yon sa init ng araw. Hindi naman masyadong babad, pero dapat magkaroon tayo ng light galing sa sun kasi nakakatulong din yon para manuot yung color ng mga natural dyes natin. So, in this, the second slide, we have the pictures of the processing of the examples of dye bath. Dye bath kasi, sinabi itong dye bath kasi na andun siya, nilalagay siya sa planggana. So, isa din ito yung strategy ng pagdadaying kasi nilulublob yung cloth sa isang planggana. So, the next slide is the process of dye bathing. The first is remove the desired portion of the plants. Aalisin muna natin yung mga hindi kasamang mga parte ng gagamitin natin para sa dye bath. And the second is the chop or tear the blossom, leaves, and etc. apart to expose more surface area. Chop or tear, ibig sabihin aalisin na muna natin yung mga blossoms, mga dahon at kung ano-ano pang hindi kailangan sa paggawa ng dyeing. So, combined in a large kettle, ilalagay ito sa isang malaking kasirola para doon pakuluan yung natural plant pigments natin. Doon siya ipapakulo hanggang sa lumabas na yung color ng pigment ng plants. So, add enough water to cover the plant materials. add enough water. Kailangan nating dumagdag ng konting tubig para naman mas lalong dumami or mas lalong ma i ma mailagay yung color doon sa cloth natin. So, simmer on range until the plant materials look faded and dye has transferred to the water. It is also tumatagal ito ng 1 oras. Strain out leftover plants, materials, and discard. Isi-strain natin yung mga leftover na plant na pinagkuluan natin kasi hindi na yun natin kailangan. Kasi andun na siya sa tubig na absorb na nung i-absorb na nung cloth yung nasa tubig na galing doon sa plant. And the last is the relieving liquid is your dye. Yun na yung tinatawag natin na dye. Isusok na natin doon yung cloth na white. Kailangan plain white para makita at lalong lumabas yung color ng natural dye natin. Example ng mga natural dye natin is the turmeric, onion skin, mayana, nara, mahogany, and the aswete. Yung aswete kasi is sobra siyang ilagay mo pa lang siya sa tubig, kakalat na yung color niya. So, it is colored in red. Pwede din natin ito, ginagamit din natin ito ng mga bata pa tayo kung nakakita kayo ng puno ng aswete, nilalagay natin yun sa lip natin. So, masyado siyang color. Ginagawa nating lipstick. So, yun lang.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jonathan Relos, and I will discuss on how to prepare textile for dyeing. Welcome to our guide on preparing fiber for dyeing. Whether you're a textile enthusiast or just curious, this process is essential for achieving vibrant, long-lasting colors in your fabrics. First, let's understand the 3 general types of fibers used in textiles, which are synthetic, animal, and plant fibers. Natural dyes work differently with these fibers. Synthetic fibers don't readily absorb them, while animal fibers, like wool, are protein-based and interact well with dyes. And plant fibers, such as cotton, are cellulose-based and have a tighter structure. Now let's dive into preparing cotton fibers, one of the most common plant-based textile. Step 1. Simmer the cotton material in a solution of mild dish soap. This helps remove any oil, wax, or dirt that might interfere with the dye adhering to the fibers. Step 2. Allow the cotton to simmer for a short while to ensure a thorough cleaning. Step 3. After simmering, rinse the cotton fibers well to remove any remaining soap and contaminants. And there you have it, clean, ready to dye cotton fibers. In conclusion, preparing fibers for dyeing is a crucial step to ensure the colors you apply are vibrant and long-lasting. Whether you're creating art or crafting clothing, these steps are your foundation for stunning results. Again, this is Jonathan Relos. Thank you for listening.
Mordanting fibers. But before we proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Maricar A. Placides from BSE 2D. Mordanting fibers is the most important process of preparing fibers to accept color. It causes the dye to be chemically trapped on the fibers so the dyed fabric will not lose its color. Mordant helps to ensure the most durable and long-lasting colors. In mordanting, it depends on you what you choose and how much time you wish to spend. Why? because there are different types of fibers. So, gaya nga ng sabi ko, there are different types of fibers and mordants can perform better or worse on different kinds of it. So, here's the two categories of fibers. First is cellulose fibers. It includes all the plant-based fibers. Second is protein or animal fibers, meaning any fibers that comes from animals. Dyeing is the application of dyes or pigments on textile materials such as fibers, yarns, and fabrics with the goal of achieving color with desired color fastness. The primary source of dye historically has been nature, with the dyes being extracted from animals or plants. It depends on the dye used whether it appears bright or pale. In general, dyeing is a process which a textile fiber absorbs the molecules of dye. Steps in dyeing. Place the cotton material in the prepared dye bath. Bring dye bath to a boil for 5 minutes. Simmer for 2 hours, stirring occasionally. Let cotton material soak overnight. Take cotton material out of dye bath. Drain off excess dye. Rinse thoroughly and last, allow to dry.
Good day everyone, so let's come now to natural dyes. But let me first introduce myself. I am Payongga John Michael R. and I am assigned to Anato and Achuete. These trees' common name is Achuete or Anato. The local name in Bicol, Ilocos, Panay, Visayas, and Zambales and Filipino are Achuete. It is also known in Ilocos and Pampanga as Atsuete, Achute in Pangasinan, Apatut in Nueva Vizcaya, Asute at Bataan, Yanang or Tianang and Sulu, Sotes in Negros, and the scientific name of this tree is Bixa aureliana. Anato or Achuete is a member of the family Bexicae, and its botanical description, Anato is a small bushy tree 2 to 8 meters high and 30 centimeters in diameter, with a stem color varying from green to red. Young twigs are covered with rust-colored scales. Leaves are heart-shaped and alternated. Fruits are dark red to green. Seeds pods vary in sizes, may be round or elongated with pointed ends, dry to brown. These bursts open to reveal bright orange or yellowish red color. The inside of the pod is divided into valves that contain 10 to 50 seeds. Anatodaciotes distribution. Anato originated from tropical America. At present, it is abundant distributed in the tropics and is common throughout the lowlands of the Philippines. Uses of Anato and Achuete. The trees of Achuete is interplanted with pineapple, papaya, and cowpeas. It is also used as a living fence and firewood. So ginagamit po ito nilang pambakod sa kanilang bakuran or sa kanilang garden. And ginagamit din po nila yung mga kahoy bilang panggatong. Leaves, bark, and seeds have medical uses. So, yung leaves, barks, and seeds po ay ginagamit nilang panggamot sa mga ibang sakit. Barks is a source of fiber. Yung bark po ay pinagkukuhanan ng fiber. Uses of Achuete as a dye. The coloring matter of the dried seed bixin is employed commercially for coloring butter, cheese, and other food, condiments, and in preparation of leather and floor polishes. The bark is also a good source of dye. So, many parts po, especially the seed of the achuete, is used as a dye. And also, bark can become a source of dye that can be used in clothes and other fibers. The site requirements. The tree is found in backyards and open fields. It thrives in almost all types of soils but grows best in the moist, deep loamy soil. It grows at an altitude of 800 meters. It can also withstand a mild drought of less than 4 months. Propagation. It is propagated by seeds. These are 26,000 seeds per liter and 34,000 seeds per kilogram, and germinative capacity of the seed is 80 to 100%. Management. The planting area should be left clean and open for 1 to 2 months before planting. Seedling must be raised in a nursery under a light shade with a space of 10 by 25 centimeters apart. It can be outplanted when it reaches 15 to 25 centimeters tall. For the direct seeding, the recommended space is 5 meters by 5 meters with a population of 400 plants per hectare. Plant 2 to 3 seeds per hole and cover with a thin layer of soil. Then direct seeded plants when 4 months old. Cultivate the soil around the plants to a shallow depth. Prune out the damaged or diseased leaves. Powdery mildew has been observed infecting the plant. Harvest the pods when they begin to show a tinge of red when they begin to split. Cut up with sharp scissors and just above the first node of the bunch, and another crop will produce in 12 months. Phenology. Flowering occurs from August to December. The tree begins to bear fruits in 18 months. Full crop is attained in 3 to 4 years. That's all for the Anato and Achuete. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Before I proceed to my discussion, let me introduce myself first. So, I'm Christine May Razon, and today let's talk about Bangkoro, which is a kind of plant that used as natural dyes. Bangkoro is a common name for a plant known as Morinda cetrifolia. It is also known by various names in different regions, including Bancoro in Visayas, Philippines, and Bancodo in Tagalog. In Tahiti, it is instead referred to as noni. Scientific name Morinda cetrifolia. Noni belongs to the botanical plant family Rubiaceae, also known as the gardenia, coffee, or quinine family. Next is botanical description. Bangkoro is an erect, smooth shrub or small tree that grows up to 15 feet with spreading branches. Leaves are quite large, ovate in form, shining green contrasting with creamy white long lateral veins. Bangkoro fruit is fleshy and as big as a child fist. When ripe, it looks pale yellowish and has a soft pulp. Its odor and taste are unfavorable, because some people find the taste and odor of noni to be unfavorable for several reasons. Number one is because of strong, pungent smell. Noni has a strong and somewhat unpleasant odor. Some describe it as similar to cheese, overripe fruit, or even rotten onions. The powerful odor can be off-putting to many people. Next is bitter taste. Noni fruit is often described as having a bitter and sour taste. The flavor is quite unique and can be an acquired taste for some. The bitterness can be overwhelming for those who are not accustomed to it. And lastly is texture. The texture of noni fruit can also be a factor. It is often described as slimy or somewhat gritty, which may not be enjoyable for some people. Next is distribution. Bangkoro is found throughout the Philippines. It is also found in India to Polynesia. So, noni is a hardy plant that can grow in a variety of soil types and is often found in coastal areas and disturbed habitats. Due to its various traditional and potential medicinal uses, noni has been cultivated and introduced to other tropical and subtropical regions around the world. Next is uses. The tree of Bangkoro is used for ornamental shade. Leaves for medicinal. The leaves of the Morinda cetrifolia plant, noni or bangkoro, are indeed used in traditional and herbal medicine for various purposes. Noni leaves are believed to contain a range of compounds that may have potential health benefits. Next is the fruit juice, manufactured as health drink called noni. Noni juice is derived from Morinda cetrifolia, sometimes called starvation fruit or vomit fruit because of a taste unappealing to humans. Traditionally, noni juice, also called BQG-chan, Indian mulberry or wild pine, has been used for conditions ranging from asthma to smallpox, premenstrual syndrome, and leprosy, but it's not well studied for any one of those conditions. The herbal has a high potassium content which may predispose to interaction with potassium-sparing diuretics and certain antihypertensive medications. And lastly, use as dye. Bark of root is used for dyeing in Java. So Bangkoro has been used traditionally as a source of natural dye. The plant's roots and bark contain certain compounds that can produce reddish to brownish dyes. This practice is especially common in various Pacific Island and Southeast Asian regions where the noni plant is native. The dye extracted from noni has been used for color fabrics, including traditional clothing, basket, and other items. However, it's important to note that the use of noni as natural dye is more traditional and cultural rather than widespread commercial application. The dyeing process may involve various techniques, and the resulting colors can vary depending on factors like the part of the plant used and the specific dyeing methods employed. Site requirements: growing along or near the seashore and rarely at high altitude. Propagation: seeds. Management: dried seeds are sown in seeds boxes, watered regularly, and when they reach 10 inches with 10 plus leaves, transplanted to pots or planted on the ground and treated with soap solution.
So good morning everyone. I am Mary Flor Paspo and I will be discuss about the bayok tree. So in the first slide po, it says about the bayok tree ranges from 4 to 10 meters. The 15 to 25 centimeter long oblong leaves are pointy at the tip, broad and heart-shaped at the base. The lower surface is pale and heavily haired, while the upper surface is smooth, while flowers are borne alone or in pairs. Fruit is oblong and woody. It is usually seen in Cagayan to Camarines provinces, in Luzon, Mindoro, Palawan, Ticao, Masbate, Guimaras, Negros, Mindanao, and Basilan. It is also found in Indochina and Malay Peninsula, Sumatra, Borneo, Java, and Moluccas. The uses of bayok tree po are jointing, flooring, furniture, cladding, tool handle, implements, and manufacture of plywood. It is also used in ship and bridge building and construction of beams, joints, and rafters. Wood is also suitable for matches and production of wood wool board. The pulp is also used for making papers. The leaves and the bark rich in tannin, so these are also used in traditional medicines, are poultice against itch and to treat wounds, and taken internally to treat dysentery. Bark is also used to toughen fishing nets, and the bark of this tree is used for dyeing fish nets and clothes. In the next slide po, about the site requirements of bayok, scattered throughout primary woods or grows in profusion in secondary forest, particularly around river banks, frequently on alluvial soils. It can grow up up to 1,400 meters um, above sea level. 1,400 above sea level. In the next slide po is about the propagation of the bayok. A kilogram of dried seeds without wings contains roughly 19,500 seeds in order to be transported. Um, Seeds should be in the shape of fruits because their storage life is about 2 weeks at most. Nursery beds with shades are seeds are sowed. In cases where seedling growth in inadequate wildling have been directly sown or planted. And in the last slide po is about the management. Um, um, in the field, seedling are positioned at 3 by 1 or 3 by 2 meters. After 3 years, the first thinning is required to prevent the creation of excessively slender stems that are prone to bending. The yield is between 51 and 64 M3 or HA at 8 years and 98 M3 or HA at 13 years following a 5. Trees usually compise or resprout. The tree requires a lot of light and has rapid growth. Natural forest regeneration in confined to gaps and forest edges.
Good day everyone, I am Shina Pastor and I will discuss about pignai as one of the natural dye. So, pignai scientific name is Antidesma buneus and is Antidesma buneus and it is part of Euphorbiaceae family. Here in Bicol, it is known as pugnay, same in Ilocos, Bontoc, Ibanag, and Bisaya. It is known in different term in different places here in Philippines. So bignay is an attractive dioecious shrub or a small tree 4 to 10 meter high, and also its leaves are small, dark green, shining, alternate, pointed at the tip, rounded or printed at the base. So its fruits is thin, skinned, spherical to ovoid, dark red when ripe, small, juicy, sour and well flavored. Also, its flowers are small, green and odorous, and these fruits contain a single flat seed. There are 20 to 25 or more fruits per cluster. Pignay is known to flower from April to June. Generally, the main fruiting season is from July to August. So its economic uses. The tree of bignay serve as ornamental, reforestation, and weed suppressing species. And its leaf can be eaten as salad, sometimes used as substitute for tomato or vinegar flavor for meat, stew, and fish. Its leaves and bark is used as medicine, though also reported as poisonous. It contains alkaloid and applied externally. And next, the wood as a temporary construction, poles, posts, fences, walking sticks, and tool handles. And lastly, its fruit is a source of blue dye. So next is its propagation. Pignay is capable for seed, grafting or budding, stem cutting, and marketing. The seeds need 1 month after ripening and can then be sown under shade without pre-treatment. Though seeds, however, need a pre-treatment with sulfuric acid for 15 minutes, followed by soaking in water for 4 hours. Seeds viability of bignay is 3 to 30% germination. Seeds viability of bignay is 3 to 30% germination, and germination takes 30 to 60 days. And that's all for my part. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jubel C. Palmiano, and I will be discussing about katmon. The scientific name of catmoon is Dillenia philippinensis, and it belongs to the family of Dilleniaceae. Dillenia philippinensis or catmoon is endemic to the Philippines and can be used for urban greenings. Its fruit is also known as elephant apple. Catmoon grows in low to medium altitude forests throughout the Philippines, but does not survive the cold climates of the uplands. Catmoon tree is a medium-sized evergreen tree that grows up to 15 centimeter high. The flowers are white, large, showy, and about 15 centimeter in diameter. The fruit, which is surrounded, is 5 to 6 centimeter in diameter. Fruit is fleshy, green, edible with a flavor somewhat similar to green sour apple. Some areas in the country, the acidic juice of the fruit is used for the treatment of cough and for making sauce and jams, as well as for flavoring fish and the fruit as vegetable. Saba, young leaves or stem bark pounded and applied as paste on swelling and wounds. Elsewhere, sugared fruit juice is used as beverage for fevers, also as cardiotonic. Wood provides a useful timber used for posts, beam joints, rafter, flooring, sheeting, ceiling, furniture and cabinetry work, musical instrument, paving blocks, and mine timber. The red color run from extracted air-dried ground cotton bark is a safer and more compatible source for alternative to synthetic dyes like Alora Red and pharmaceutical syrup formulation.
Morning everyone, I'm Maria Andrea Ampado from BSC2E. So I will discuss the topic of natural dye about langka. Langka is commonly known as jackfruit and its scientific name is Archocarpus heteropyrus lam. It belongs to the Mariaceae family and is characterized by its small to medium-sized evergreen tree with dense foliage and thick grayish bark. Distribution and cultivation. Langka is native to the rainforest of the Western Ghats in India, but it's widely cultivated in tropical lowland worldwide. It is an important root crop in several countries, including India, Burma, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. Economic uses. The langka tree itself provides shade and has various applications in agroforestry, intercropping, and reforestation. The fruit of langka has both matured and ripe uses. The matured fruit can be cooked and used as a vegetable, while the ripe fruit is used to make a sweet preserves and flavoring for ice cream. It can also be fermented for alcoholic beverages. The seeds of langka are rich in starch and can be boiled or roasted for consumption. The rocks surrounding the seeds are high in vitamin and can be utilized for making jelly. The wood of langka is versatile and can be used for tool handles, timber, furniture, building materials, and even musical instruments. Langka leaves can be stitched together to form slates or containers, and they can also use as fodder for animals. The bark of langka produces of latex that can be used for caulking boats, cementing chinaware, and trapping birds. Yellow dye can be obtained from the mature wood or sawdust of langka for dyeing garment. Site requirements. Langka thrive best in moist tropical climates below 1,000 meter elevation and with well-distributed rainfall. It can grow well on various soil types but prefers deep, well-drained, sandy or clay loam soils. Adequate soil moisture is essential for langka's growth, but it cannot tolerate water stagnation or poor drainage. Propagation. In jackfruit cultivation, propagation can be done sexually or asexually. Sexual propagation involves using seeds obtained from outstanding mother bees. It is important to choose larger and heavier seeds as they have higher germination rates. Seeds should be sown immediately after extraction, as their viability decreases with exposure. Soaking seeds in 25 ppm naphthalene acetic acid for 24 hours before sowing is recommended for improved germination. Management. Seedlings of jackfruits have a sensitive taproot system, so it's advisable to sow seeds in individual containers or directly in a field. In large-scale planting, the soil should be prepared by plowing and harrowing to minimize root injury and soil disturbance. During planting, care should be taken to avoid damaging to roots. Pruning to leaves and extra shots is important to reduce. Transpiration, proper spacing, typically 8 to 10 meters or more. Following a square or triangular planting system is recommended. Irrigation and mulching help conserve moisture in the soil. Fertilization and diseases. Fertilization is crucial for the growth of fruit production of jackfruit trees. Ammonium sulfate is applied per plant 1 month after planting, with a subsequent application after 6 months. As the trees start fruiting, a complete fertilizer is applied at the beginning and end of the rainy season. Mature trees require larger amount of complete fertilizer. Common diseases is jackfruit cultivate include inflorescence rot, pink disease, and Rhizoctonia thread blight. To control these diseases, affected blight should be removed and burdened appropriate fungicide like Yopravet or Bordeaux mixture can be sprayed according to recommended dosage. Phenology. Jackfruit trees have the unique phenology with flowering occurring throughout the year. In some regions like India and Philippines, inducing post protein and achieved by intentionally injuring the bark of the trunk and branches in the practice promotes abundant fruit production.
Good day, I am Ayla Esrolion and I will be discussing the use of malunggay as a natural dyes. First, we define what is malunggay. So malunggay is botanically classified as Moringa oleifera, is a Southeast Asian name for the moringa trees, an ancient medical plant belonging to the Moringaceae family. Moringa or malunggay in Tagalog has been dubbed as a miracle tree. It is packed with nutrients and has amazing health benefits. Common name malunggay, scientific name Moringa oleifera lamk, family Moringaceae, malunggay as a natural dye. Moringa oleifera biochar or MOB was used to extract dyes from the textile, wastewater, and methylene blue or also known as MB that infuse synthetic aqueous solution. Different process parameters such as pH agitation speed, the dosage of absorption, and time of interaction have been investigated by batch experiment. Up to 99% of dye removal was achieved for the textile wastewater and 98% for MB infused aqueous solution under optimum operating condition. Malunggay botanical description. A small trees reaching a height of about 10 and 3 cm in diameter. Leaves are 26 to 50 cm long, bipinnate triangle in outline and somewhat rounded toward the twig ends. And also there are some economic uses. First, the tree is used as a fencing materials and support of blank pepper vines. Second is young leaves, flower, and young pods are eaten as a vegetable. The third is the root used for seasoning, and the last is the bark that exudes a reddish gum which is used for tanning. These are the site requirements. The tree grow best in under humid tropical condition. It is grow from low to medium altitudes and easily adapt to the various soil types. A well-drained soil is a must to prevent plants from rooting. The propagation, seed and cutting. In the management, cutting is recommended of planting mature branches are cut 2-meter long buried about 30 centimeter deep, and that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone. I am Tristan Ocampo and I'm here to discuss one of the natural dye, which is mango. So to start our discussion, let me give you a brief description about mango. Mango is a popular tropical fruit known for its sweet and juicy flesh. It belongs to the genus Mangifera and is native to South Asia, particularly India, where it is considered the king of fruits. The scientific name for mango is Mangifera indica and it belongs to the family Anacardiaceae. Mango as a natural dye. Mango can be used as a natural dye primarily from its leaves and bark. The dye obtained from mango leaves and bark produces various shades of yellow and green depending on the mordants used and the concentration of the dye bath. So, to understand the process, these are the general steps in extracting dye from mango. First is gather materials. Collect a sufficient amount of mango leaves or bark depending on the quantity of dye you want to produce. The second step is to prepare the materials. If using leaves, wash them thoroughly to remove any dirt or impurities. If using bark, it may need to be scraped or chopped into smaller pieces to expose the inner layers. Then next is mordanting. Mordants are substances that help fix the dye to the fabric and improve the color fastness. Common mordants for mango dye include alum or iron. You'll need to pre-treat your fabric with the chosen mordant by simmering it in a separate pot before dyeing. The choice of mordant can affect the final color of your dyed fabric. Alum tends to produce brighter and clearer colors, while iron can yield darker and more muted tones. Then after that, create the dye bath. Place the prepared mango leaves or bark in a large pot with enough water to cover them. Use a ratio of approximately 2:1 water to plant material. Bring this mixture to a boil and then reduce the heat to simmer for about an hour or until you achieve the desired color intensity. By boiling the materials in the water, the process of extraction begins. The next step is to strain the dye. After simmering, strain the liquid to remove the plant material, leaving you with the mango dye solution. Then, we come now to the dyeing process. Immerse the pre-mordanted fabric into the mango dye bath while it's still hot. Make sure the fabric is evenly submerged. Then let it simmer and soak. Heat the dye bath again and let the fabric simmer in it for at least an hour. You can choose to soak it longer for a deeper color. And lastly, rinse and dry. Remove the fabric from the dye bath. Rinse it thoroughly with water until the water runs clear, and then hang it to dry. Be aware that the color may appear lighter when wet compared to the final result. So remember that experimenting with different mango varieties, mordants, and dye concentrations can yield a range of colors. Also, natural dyes tend to be less color fast than synthetic ones. so the color may fade over time. And that's all for my part. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, I am Nina Barpadayao from BSE 2K. Together with my group mates, we are assigned to discuss about using natural dye, and I will tackle about Nara. Nara is a graceful tree with dropping branches that toss in the trade winds. Short-lived flowers usually appear in April or May, and for a day or two, the tree is a shimmering mass of fragrant yellow blooms which then fall off nearly at all once. The curious wing fruit stays on the tree for months. The Nara tree is the national tree of the Philippines because it is resilient and strong. It is meant to represent the cultural pride that every Filipino immigrant may carry with them. Its scientific name is Pterocarpus indicus.
Number 4.
Family Fabaceae. Botanical description. A large tree which grows up to 40-meter high and a diameter of 120 centimeter. Bole is short, buttress large, trunk fluted or deformed. Crown is wide-spreading, nearly deciduous for a short time during dry season. Leaves alternate, simple and shiny. Flowers numerous, bright, yellow and fragrant. Fruit is flat, dry, very shortly beaked, containing 0 to 5 seeds. Distribution. Grows throughout the Philippines. It also grows in India, Indochina, Borneo, Celebes, New Guinea, and Caroline Island. Economic uses. The tree is planted as ornamental and shade tree. The wood is best known for furniture. Site requirements. Thrives best in moist, sandy loam or clay loam soils along gullies and stream banks. It grows in elevation as high as 1,300 meter and grows in any of the 4 climate types of the Philippines. Adapted to temperature of 22 degrees Celsius and to 32 degrees Celsius and an average of annual precipitation of 2,366. Dyeing using plants has long been part of the process of textile production. It is a tradition in itself with knowledge and techniques passed down through countless generations. It is amazing to think about how our early ancestors discovered and developed the process of natural dyeing and the technique of fixing colors onto fibers and woven fabric. Such knowledge can only be gained through many years of exploration, discovery, and experimentation. Dyeing using different plants has been a traditional practice. However, with the invention of artificial dyes and modern dyeing practices, such use of dyes from plants was soon abandoned. Red dye for wood is produced from Nara tree. It is not soluble in water but dissolves in alkali solution such as aluminum hydroxide, alum, and wood dust. The best mordant are metallic mordants, chromium, and copper hydroxide, further with soap. Nara mordant are used for dyeing wood. Its alcoholic tincture produces dark red color dye in wood.
I am Rika Maybe Rambayong from BSE 2C. So my assigned topic is one of the natural dye, which is the Sibukaw. Sibukaw, the common name is also Sibukaw. Scientific name is Caesalpenia sapan. L. The family is Caesalpeniaceae. Sibukaw means it is a small tree, 3 to 5 meter high. The leaves are compound and up to 50 centimeter long. The flower are yellow. Pod is oblong, about 7 centimeter long, and 3.3 to 4 centimeter wide, hard and shiny. Also, Caesalpinia sapon or D. cebucau is a plant of Leguminosae family, commonly known as Brazil or sapan wood. Sapan is distributed in Southeast Asia, and its dried hardwood has been used as traditional ingredient in food or beverage. The hardwood of the plant is commonly used for the extraction of red dye. The economic uses of the Caesalpinia sapan, or known as cebucau, is chiefly used as dyewood, being very popular among the Filipinos for coloring the native fabrics. The coloring matter of sapan wood is brazilin. Brazilin is the hardwood contains water-soluble flavonoids, namely brazilin, protosaponin, and hematoxylin. Brazilin is the main homosulfanoid constituent found in the Caesalpinia sapan hardwood, which is well known as the natural red colored dye for staining. Also, Brazilin also exhibit different industrial application. Therefore, extraction and purification of Brazilin is one of the important steps to achieve high extraction yield and purity, respectively. While the distribution is abundant throughout the Philippines, it occurs also in India, Malaya, and Java. Beside requirements, grows at low and medium altitudes in dry thickets and parang. Propagation, seed. Propagation materials. It usually the stalk raised from seed is used for planting. Fruits are formed 5 to 15 days after flowering and attain maturity in 3 months' time, that is during October to December. Seed for raising the nursery are collected in November to December. The important part of Caesalpinia sapan hardwood is the hardwood, which is pale red, hard, heavy with even and fine structure. The hardwood is traditionally used in Indian Ayurveda and Chinese folk medicine. In Thailand, it is mostly used as coloring agent and beverage, food, garment, and cosmetics. A decoction of hardwood is used in Namiatai solution, which has anti-thirst and cardiogenic properties. In northern Thailand, especially in Chiang Mai, Nan, and Lampang province, Caesalpinia sapan hardwood decoction is used as anti-inflammatory agent for the treatment of traumatic disease and arthritis.
So for the last topic of natural dye, we call pig dye. So before I start to discuss my topic, let me first introduce myself. I am Janilyn Esriel from BSE 2D. Let us have to describe the Philippine teak tree. So, the Philippine teak is an endemic forest tree species. It is a small to medium-sized tree with bright purple blooms. The species can attain a height of 15 to 25 meters and a diameter around 50 centimeter. It has leaves which are 8 to 15 centimeter long and 3 to 6 centimeter wide, elliptical to ovate, lanceolate, acuminate,
light green above and pale beneath with rough surface. It has terminal flowers sometimes in the upper axils around 8 by 10 millimeter in a diameter. So let us now talk about the origin of tick. So the species is native in the Philippines. It is found in the municipalities of Lobo, San Juan, in Batangas province. It is also found in Barangay Katayungan and Baclayan, Iling Island, Occidental Mindoro, and in Mount Makiling, Laguna. The species produces valuable timber because of its high density and high strength wood. The species is recommended for heavy duty structural use such as building ships and sailboats, bridges and wharves, mine timber posts and beams, railway carriage for heavy duty furniture, carpentry, and wood carving. It is also used as a firewood. So aside from wood carving of teak tree, we have also um, leaf dye. It is used as a natural dye. So these are the steps to make a teak leaf dye. So number one, collect the teak leaves and wash them to remove any dirt. Number two, boil the leaves in water about an hour. And number three, let the mixture cool and strain it to separate the dye. And lastly, number four, now you can use the thick leaf dye to color fabrics, yarn, or creative artwork. So these are some examples of thick leaf dyeing. So there is a clothes and also some fabrics.
We all know that there's something beautiful about being natural. No artificial needed. You can truly say that natural means is at reach for perfection. In the world of arts and crafts, any products created from the pure skills and materials from the nature that we love truly tells us a story about an origin of the said community. My name is Carl Erole Muñedo from BSE2L. Now, we are going to tackle about a landlocked province on the western side of the massive Cordillera in the northern Luzon, a province that is famously known as the natural dye capital of the Philippines, the province of Abra. Abra, once again, is located in northern Luzon of the Philippines. It is referred to as the natural dye capital of the Philippines. But why is it called as a natural dye capital of the Philippines? Well, it is because of the main one reason. The said province has abundance of natural dye producing materials. That means it is rich with trees, plants, you name it, having a characteristics or potential as a source of dye or variation of beautiful magnificent colors. And later on, we're going to talk about the different types of trees or plants that has potential or characteristics as to be used as the natural source of dye. And the practices to make natural dyes that's passed down by the ethnic or the Tengueñan people. Ethnic or Tengueñan people are also known as the natural dye makers. These ethnic groups was located at the said province. It is because of their excellent skills, processes to create dye from plants, and they're presenting with the skills by handing it down through generations. So there's no fear for losing such great techniques. In the village of Namarabar, located towards central Abra, the Agaid family of the School of Living Traditional Abra are both staunch supporters of the local dyeing industry and some of the finest dyeing practitioners in the region. The late family patriarch, Luis Agaid Sr., is known as the father of natural dyes. His son, Luis Agaid Jr., and wife, Nida, continue to practice and teach these natural dye traditions. Dyes are created from different natural sources like plants, tree bark, and fruits. For example, in plants is the sapangwood. The part of this tree that is being used as the natural dye source is both the tree barks and the leaves. And tree barks, already mentioned, the sapangwood, narrow tree, and the mahogany tree. In fruits, we have achuete and talisay fruit, especially in achuete. Achuete is also known as having its characteristics of red bright colors. native indigo plant, and scientific name Indigofera tinctoria. The ethnic of the northern Abra use malatayon or the native indigo plant to produce regal dark blue for their ceremonial kinamayan textile. The kinamayan textile or the heirloom blanket showcase the history of Abra, representing the Tingulian culture and identity. It features the enabel or handwoven blankets made from the Tinguinan textile, which are considered heirloom pieces, passed on from the generation to another generation. This particular plant, malatayon or the indigo plant, can yield a variety of color hues from different shades of blue to violet. As you can see, there are samples of naturally produced dyes of etmeg and the indigo dye produced from the malatayon plant. That truly explains the skills of the ethnic people from Abra by producing natural dyes using plants, not to mention their ability to create different sets of shades of color. What a truly masterpiece. Next, we're going to go deeper to learn different types of plants that is used as natural dyes. But it will be discussed by Miss Falcon Rose Abenil. She is going to report the different types of plants or examples that is really abundant in this particular province, Abra. Once again, my name is Carl Erolem Oñedo from BSE 2L.
Hi everyone, I'm Falcon Rose E. The continuation of natural dye capital of the Philippines located in Abra. The dye industry employs both the textile procedures of Abra and its farmers who cultivate many of the plant-based sources the dyes are extracted from. Sapangwood is a flowering tree that is also used to produce pinkish red and violet. Achuete, a fruit contained in a spiky heart-shaped pod that is used for oranges dyes. Tawa-tawa, the leaves of tawa-tawa plant used in folklore medicines also produce a vibrant yellow color. Taro root crops or gabi create a beautiful yellow-green color. Ipil-ipil or river tamarind tree yields pigments ranging from violet to maroon. And mahogany tree and bark of nara tree creates brown color. And the last, talisay fruit, can be used to produce black. All of those dyes and more are used for coloring the expensive textiles of the weavers of Abra. That's all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Alondes and today we will talk about eco-printing. What is eco-printing? Eco-printing or botanical printing as it is also known is a process by which the colors and shapes of leaves or other natural plant materials such as bark, seeds, or flowers are transferred onto fabric or paper. The term eco-printing, eco-dyeing, and contact printing each describes the same results. Eco-printing tends to describe a method of transferring a design. Eco-dyeing focuses on the chemical bonding that results in a dye-printed surface, while contact printing refers to a method of printing. Ang eco-printing ay isang pamamaraan kung saan ang mga halaman, dahon at bulaklak ay nag-iwan ng kanilang mga hugis, kulay at mga marka sa tela. Ang material ng halaman na nakabandal sa loob ng tela ay pinapasingaw o pinakuluan upang palabasin ang tina na natural na matatagpuan sa loob ng halaman na lumilikha ng contact print sa hugis ng dahon o bulaklak na ginamit. History of eco-printing. Botanical printing did not really emerge in popular culture until the early 90s, when artist India Flint started working with eucalyptus and fabric. Flint is credited with reviving and developing the process now widely referred to as eco printing. Before the mid 80s, natural dyes were the only source of color on fabric, most typically ati, was brewed with the plant materials and then strained into a hodgepodge made with copper or iron. The material reacted with the tea and left color in the fiber. Dyers could stir constantly to keep the dye even. Not all plants make good dyes, but over the centuries, the process of natural dyeing has been refined and shared so that dyers know which the good plants are. Ecoprint effects may be familiar to reads from several sources. Who is Flint India? Flint India is textile artist dye developer. India Flint was born in Melbourne, Australia, but celebrated her first 3 birthdays in Montreal, Canada. Her first attempts at stitching were guided by her maternal grandmother, an infinitely patient retreaters of needles who overdyed faded garments in various combinations of tea leaves, candiulas, and onion skins. As a child, she discovered filth by accident, whilst vigorously scrubbing wool gathered from barbed wire fences near Werribee. Her fascination for textile was greatly encouraged by her mother, who always seemed to have a piece of embroidery or knitting in progress and took her through seemingly endless museums during the family's wanderings around the world. Origins of eco-printing. This technique was born in the 90s regarding experiments concerning the natural dyeing of fabrics combined with the shibori technique, which, for the uninitiated, is a technique born in Japan for the dyeing and decoration of fabrics. Eco-printing can be attributed to the intuition and experimentation. Australian artists passionate about natural dyeing techniques called India Flint. Another source of inspiration and ideas for this technique was probably found in a traditional method of Latvian origin, namely the decoration of Easter eggs. In recent years, this eco-friendly printing technique has mostly been popularized by tutorials, websites, and DIY. Ang eco-printing ay isang medyo bagong pamamaraan na binuo sa mga nakaraang taon. Ngunit ito ay batay sa mga tradisyonal na pamamaraan ng natural na pagtitina na ginamit sa loob ng maraming siklo. Ang partikular na terminong eco-printing na kilala ngayon ay unang nilikha ng artist na nakabase sa Australia na si India Flint. Noong unang bahagi ng 20s, ang natatanging eco-print na binuo noong pananaliksik para sa isang Master of Visual Arts sa Universidad ng Timog, Australia ay naging isang pagtukoy sa katangian ng kasanayan sa tela ng India. Habang siya ay gumawa ng mga detalye ng magagamit na pamamaraan upang tumuloy sa pangulay, mga practitioner na may pagtatasa ng kulay ng eucalyptus. Ito ay nasa pag-unawa sa hindi gagamitin ang proseso sa isang komersyal na batayan.
Hi everyone, Good morning. My name is Edmond Pera from BSE 2F. My assigned topic is about techniques and steps for eco printing. So, as you can see, these are the examples of eco printing. Ano nga ba ang mga techniques para sa paggawa ng eco printing? Sabi dito, selection of materials, fabrics, and plant elements. Natural materials is used to form the desired composition. The composition must be impregnated with vinegar. The fabric is wrapped and dyed to a support and boiled in water. Let the fabric cool and rest. Remove plant material. Rinse the fabric with warm water. That's all the techniques that you can do if you like eco printing. Then the next one is the basic step of eco printing. The first step is gather materials. Collect leaves, flowers, and other plant materials. Choose natural fabrics like cotton or silk. Number 2, prepare fabric. Wash fabric to remove any sizing or finishes. Pre-mordant fabric with a natural mordant like alum to help fix pigments. Number 3, arrange plant materials. Place leaves and flowers on the fabric in your desired arrangement. Bundle or layer. Bundle the fabric with plant materials tightly. Secure with string or rubber bands. Steam or boil the bundled fabric to extract pigments from plant materials. Cool and unwrap. Allow the bundle to cool. Unwrap to reveal the eco-printed design. Dry and set. Let the fabric dry naturally. Iron to set pigments and enhance colors. Optional, post-treatments. Some artists apply post-treatments like vinegar baths for additional effects. So, dito guys, kung makikita nyo, that is example of printing using ajwain leaf and marigold leaf on cotton fabric. Bale dito, ituturo ko sa inyo kung paano ito ginawa. Ito ang mga steps na dapat sundin para sa paggawa. Step 1. Collect all the supplies like cotton, vinegar, iron water solution, ferrous sulfate plus water, ajwain and marigold leaf, polythene or plastic sheet, some PVC pipe or wooden sticks or roots, threads, a utensil for boiling, stove or gas. Step 2. Detergent wash. Soak the fabric in detergent and warm water solution for 30 minutes. Wash the fabric with detergent properly to remove the starch so that the dye can be fixed properly on the fabric. Step 3. Then soak it in vinegar plus water solution for about 30 minutes again. Meanwhile, soak the leaves in iron water solution, ferrous sulfate plus water solution. Step 4. Lay out the leaves on the cotton fabric in whatever pattern you want. Step 5. A plastic is placed over the leaves and the whole thing is rolled tightly onto a piece of PVC to make bundles. Make sure there is good contact between the fabric and leaves for printing. Step 6. Dye bath preparation. Take a steamer or roaster pan in which add iron water solution, vinegar, and put some leaves and barks. Let it boil for 10 minutes. Step 7. Take your bundle and arrange them in a pot to be steamed. Use an extra dowel rod to lift the fabric bundles out of the water. Place a lid on top to keep in steam. Step 8. Continue boiling for 45 minutes till hour. Step 9. Check it periodically to make sure the water doesn't boil off entirely. Add more water as needed. Step 10. Let them dry completely and steam iron them and then wash it with detergent. Yun lamang po at sana may natutunan kayo. Maraming salamat po.